With Survivor Series being just around the corner, I figured what better time to get into the spirit of competition than now. And what bigger competition is there out there than WWE versus AEW? So that's what we're going to be putting head to head today, as we're going to be building a head-to-head Survivor Series fantasy booking between AEW and WWE, and we're going to build both a men's and a women's match as well. And yes, I am still sick. I'm sure you can see it. I'm usually a lot prettier than this, okay? Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident you're going to fall in love with this channel because we upload daily wrestling content, even when we're dying of whatever this sickness is. All right, let's start off with the WWE Women's Division. And whether you like it or not, I think the team captain for Team WWE is going to be Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is probably going to go down as the greatest WWE women's superstar of all time, at the very least in terms of accolades, because I don't think that any female is ever going to catch up to what she has already accomplished in the WWE, and she still has like 10 years left to her prime. And on top of that, like, who is more WWE than Charlotte freaking Flair? She is born and bred by the WWE system, going from NXT all the way through to the main roster, making it through the Divas era, and right now, of course, being the top women's superstar in, like I said, WWE history. I know that she's got a lot of detractors. A lot of people don't like Charlotte Flair, but I think that there is no denying that when we're building the quintessential WWE women's team, it needs to not only have Charlotte Flair, I think it needs to be captained by Charlotte Flair. But hey, don't you worry, because right beside her is going to be her longtime arch nemesis and another one of those top WWE female superstars. Another one that's going to go down in the history books of one of the greatest to ever do it is going to be Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is just such a wonderful story, because for a while she was looked upon as like the forgotten member of the four horsewomen of WWE, and she has just catapulted herself ever since 2019 in that run as the man into not just being one of like the essential women in the WWE, but one of the greatest women in WWE history. Her accolades speak for herself. Her character work speaks for herself. Again, weirdly, in recent memory, some people have kind of started to turn on Becky Lynch, but that's not me. I believe firmly that Becky Lynch is one of the greatest women to ever do it, and she still, just like Charlotte Flair, still has a long time left in her career to even continue to build upon this pedigree that she's already standing on. And to me, she has even built herself even more by demonstrating that not only can she be a top player, but she can be one of those mentors that helps develop the superstars of the future. Just look at her recent work in NXT and helping put over the likes of Lyra Valkyria as well as Tiffany Stratton. This woman has been doing it all for quite some time, and I think that I cannot think of a better way to repay her than have her kick AEW's ass in this match. One man's trash is another man's treasure, and I think that no one personifies this better in this matchup than Jade Cargill, who was not re-signed by AEW and was instead stolen by the WWE, probably because a bidding war that WWE was just not willing to lose. And hey, and if I was WWE and I was trotting out the team that I wanted to take out AEW, I mean, she's front and center, right? Not only is she an amazing physical specimen, but she would also just send such a message that, hey, not only are we going to trounce AEW, we are going to trounce AEW using one of your weapons that we have stolen for ourselves. I'm talking as if I was a WWE executive. I'm not pro team WWE here. I'm just saying that would be my thought process. And in terms of like being just a physically dominant species, like no one touches Jade Cargill in terms of that regard right now. Like I believe that she would be team WWE's trump card in terms of being able to overpower anyone and everything that the AEW locker room would be able to throw at team WWE. And again, just trotting out a former AEW megastar for Team WWE is just the right level of arrogance and FU from the WWE to Team AEW. It's just too perfect to not use Jade Cargill. Probably the most popular and the most over female in the WWE and probably all of women's wrestling right now is Rhea Ripley. Not only is she the top player in Monday Night Raw's women's division, but she is a top player in the main event, period, not just the women. To me, what's really elevated Rhea Ripley over the last several months, I'd say probably the last 10 or so months, has just been the way that she has stepped up her game in terms of character work, not only in her promos, but also her backstage segments, but also even just her facial expressions and body expressions whenever she is watching Judgment Day matches on the outside of the ring. Every time that the camera is on her, she steals the show. She is just an ever-growing aura and presence that is undeniable in the WWE, not to mention that she is an absolute fucking powerhouse that could take out just about anyone that the AEW locker room can throw at Team WWE. And this combination of Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill, that's a tough duo to try and overcome when it comes to size and strength. I just don't know what AEW could potentially put together to take out that duo in terms of just like raw strength and power. But hey, if you thought those two in terms of raw strength and power were undeniable, why don't we just toss in the EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, in there and then truly make it an unstoppable trio of strength. I know a lot of people seem to think that I have some weird hate towards Bianca Belair, but I promise you I don't. I just like Io Sky more, and that's who she's been feuding with over the last several months. But I think Bianca Belair, not only is she an amazing physical specimen that could take out just about anyone in the AEW locker room, and she would match up so perfectly along the side of Rhea Ripley and a Jade Cargill. And hell, I know we've been talking strength here, and I haven't been mentioning Charlotte Flair, who is also freaky strong in her own regard. This is just a super powerful team, and when you add Bianca Belair there, not only is it just super powerful, like raw physically, but also in terms of character and charisma as well. I know a lot of you think that she is a charisma void, but people like her. All right, she's popular, and you know, not every character needs to be for me and for you. We need to realize that there's other WWE fans that don't want the exact same thing that we want. She meets a different demographic, and I'm just not that demographic, okay? I'm just not a little girl. Or am I? No, I'm not. I can confirm that. All right, so that was Team WWE. It's a pretty scary team. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I could put together an AEW team that can beat that, but I'm gonna do my best. Let's check out the AEW team. I think for me, I have to have the AEW team be captained by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who has just been putting on banger after banger after banger for years in AEW now, and is, in my opinion, the most valuable female roster member that they have. I think from an in-ring point of view, I think that she's actually better than just about everyone that I mentioned in the WWE roster, but the WWE roster collectively as a whole right now, like that WWE team that I put together, is just too much for somebody like a Britt Baker to be able to overcome. So let's see what else I was able to bring forth for the AEW team. For Team AEW, I'm also bringing current AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida, who is able to just about do it all. She's able to have any single type of match under the sun imaginable and make it super fun and make it super entertaining, and she's got such a great entrance theme as well and such a great aura about her. In combination with her and Britt Baker, again, from a technical in-ring point of view, I think that they're trouncing Team WWE right now, but in terms of everything else, like raw power, charisma, Team WWE is schooling Team AEW right now. And I think that's the overall problem with the AEW women's locker room, is that they don't have these like giant, awesome, super charismatic characters. They just have really great in-ring workers. And I think somebody that embodies that is Thunder Rosa, who just continuously just puts on match of the night contender, match of the year contender whenever she's in the ring. I love Thunder Rosa's work. But again, as great as she is in the ring, I just don't think that she matches up against all of the other women that I mentioned in the Team WWE roster. Like, with the exception of Becky Lynch, I put some monsters in there. Some women that are absolutely going to tower over everyone that I've mentioned so far in Team AEW. And I just don't think that the scrappy in-ring work of the current women that I've listed in Team AEW is going to be enough to win this. So we need a muscle mommy on Team AEW. So let's put in the current muscle mommy of AEW, Chris Statlander, who is, by the way, there to counter her Jade Cargill. She is the one that ended Jade Cargill's long winning streak in AEW by beating her for the TBS Women's Championship at Double or Nothing. And frankly, out of everyone that I've listed in Team AEW, I think Chris Statlander is the one that matches up the best against Team WWE and those towering women and super powerful women that I've listed from Team WWE. Chris Statlander so far is the only one that can stop those immovable objects coming at them from Team WWE. But you know what? We gotta add a little bit of psychological drama in there, and that's why we're gonna be adding Toni Storm to Team AEW, who is doing some of her best character work ever that I've ever seen. She's one of the most entertaining things about AEW and the AEW women's roster right now. And on top of that, she would play that beacon of what could have been had WWE actually used her properly. What could have been if WWE recognized the type of talent that they had in their hand when they had Toni Storm under contract within the WWE. These can be some psychological mind games here, all right? Demonstrating, hey, again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. You took Jade Cargill, we took Toni Storm, and now we're making Toni Storm into one of our biggest roster members in the AEW women's locker room. All right, so that's the best team that I could build for AEW and WWE in terms of the women's rosters, and I'm gonna be honest, Team WWE is sweeping that. The AEW's women's locker room right now is, to me, the weakest that it's ever been. Meanwhile, the Raw women's, not just Raw, SmackDown, all of WWE's women's locker room right now is just stacked to the brim. I'm going to take Team WWE 10 out of 10 times on that one. I'd like to take a second here to thank you for supporting me over on Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to be getting more wrestling content and you're going to be getting earlier wrestling content. Again, that's patreon.com/SantiZap. If you want more wrestling content, that's the place to go. Thank you very much for those that are already supporting me on there, helping keep the lights on and helping keep this mic on. Thank you very much. Now back to the video. All right, let's go into the men's Survivor Series match that I've built. Let's start off with Team WWE. If he's willing to grace us with his presence, I would love Team WWE to be captained by the tribal chief Roman Reigns. But again, it's all about whether or not this mother Canucker will actually show up to work. Because we know that he works about 3 weeks and then disappears for 4 months and then shows up. And he's not even scheduled to be at this year's Survivor Series. So I might have fumbled by starting off by captaining things with the tribal chief Roman Reigns. This may have been a mistake, but it is undeniable that if you have Roman Reigns on your team, you are a hack. You're gonna win. This man rarely loses. This man just doesn't get pinned. I mean, he got pinned not that long ago, but still, all right? It was like one time in like a 3-year span that this man has been pinned. He is an unstoppable hack to have on your team. You would be lucky to have Roman Reigns on your team. Have you taken a second out of your day to acknowledge the tribal chief? Please do so right now. I'll wait. Thank you. But we gotta have the workhorse of the WWE. We gotta have Seth Rollins in here. And if you've noticed, I already have 2 of the 3 members of the Shield. We'll get to that last one a little bit later. So in terms of WWE representation, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are it, right? Like, that's WWE's poster child. They are the 1 and 2 in the entire company. You can't have a Survivor Series team with your 2 biggest names in the entire company without keeping them off of the team. You got to have both Roman and Seth Rollins. The question is, can they work together well enough in order to be able to beat Team AEW? Obviously, we know that there's history there. There's history of them hating each other. There's history of them loving each other. So it depends, you know, what side of the coin are they going to land on that morning? And hey, if we want to add a little bit more controversy to this team, why don't we add another guy that Seth Rollins hates in here, in Cody Rhodes? And Cody Rhodes is the guy you gotta have on this Survivor Series team against AEW because he built AEW, all right? It would just be too perfect for WWE to have the maker, the god, the creator of all of AEW, and using that creator to destroy AEW. It's just too poetic. It's too perfect. And he just represents everything that the WWE wants to do to AEW, which is steal their talent and put them to bed. And here's the thing, like in terms of superstar caliber, the WWE team is insane. I'm just concerned about the level of chemistry that they're going to be able to put forth, because in storyline, these three guys so far that I've mentioned in there just do not gel very well. And all three of those guys really represent the now of the WWE. That is the 1, 2, 3 of the WWE today. But what about if we were to use the future of the WWE to take out AEW? And the future of the WWE, in my opinion, is none other than Braun Breaker. I think you're looking at somebody that's going to be winning double-digit world titles on the main roster. He's only 25 years old, and he already feels like a megastar that you're just wondering, why aren't you on the main roster yet? He is crushing it in NXT. He everything that he does, in my opinion, is just gold. And like I said, he is going to be carrying the flag of the WWE for years. So why not have the guy that's going to be carrying the company on your back for the next 20 years, have him be the guy that absolutely chokes out your competition in AEW. And I like having Braun Breaker in here because he's a little bit of an odd one out in terms of the bunch, because he isn't, you know, like a current megastar in the WWE. And I think maybe this is the WWE's way of a little FU to AEW, saying, hey, we don't need all of our megastars to beat you. We can use one of our kids in NXT to whoop your ass. Now, this last one was a little bit tough to come up with. I was like, maybe Drew McIntyre. I don't know, maybe like an Austin Theory, another one of those future guys. But I don't know, man. I just felt like the run that he's been on, it would be criminal to keep Gunther, the Ring General, out of this list. I just couldn't. I couldn't justify keeping Gunther off, because not only is he on the roll of his life, but Gunther is just a 5-star match machine. And I would love to see him out there going one-on-one or in just a giant brawl with some of the names that I'm going to be listing here for AEW. I couldn't keep Gunther off. And Gunther just adds this extra edge, a little bit of extra realism, and a little bit of extra oomph to Team WWE. Because a lot of these people over in AEW, they think, the WWE is soft. They work such a safe style. All right. Why don't you say that to Gunther's face, who's about to chop your heart into pieces? All right, let's look at Team AEW now. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I could not include Jon Moxley in here. I already had 2 members of the Shield. This had to be the perfect opportunity for a Shield reunion and have in the ring at the same time Moxley, Reigns, and Rollins. We had to do it. But also, in my opinion, like Moxley has just been carrying AEW for the last several years. Like this man has just been bleeding all over the place to the level of the point where it's becoming a little bit of a meme with how much he bleeds, but he's just constantly having fantastic matches, great storylines, and to me, he is the MVP of all of AEW. And again, he adds that level of realism and grit that it could potentially help catapult Team AEW to win this. But hey, a lot of people think that AEW is just super kicks, flips, and no selling thing. Well, why don't we bring the guy that personifies all of that? As much as I love Kenny Omega, I had to have Kenny Omega. I'm making a joke, okay? I know he doesn't no sell everything. Okay, look, sometimes he no sell. Sometimes he gets a little bit ridiculous, but he's honestly just so goddamn good. He has been heralded by many as the greatest professional wrestler alive. The only one that's currently been rivaling him in terms of that moniker has been Will Ospreay recently. I really believe that Kenny Omega is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent that the WWE has never been able to get their grimy little fingers on. So he is perfect to represent Team AEW. He is everything that the WWE is not, and he would be perfect to put the ending finishing blow to Team WWE on behalf of Team AEW. But we gotta also include a star that AEW has actually made for themselves, because Moxley and Omega were already huge household names in the world of professional wrestling before AEW was even conceived. But I had no freaking clue who the hell Maxwell Jacob Friedman was until he started popping off in AEW. This man has been doing such fantastic character work over the last several years, to the point where this is the guy I want to come to WWE. I want to see him in the big times of the WWE. And he's done this this all of the back of his hard work in AEW. He deserves to be on this team. And for as much as people only praise MJF for his character work and his promo skills, like, this man has just also been putting on amazing, brutal, serious, bloody matches over the last several years. Just look at the dog collar match with CM Punk, the Iron Man match with Daniel Bryan. Just amazing, grit, bloody, fantastic matches that this man just continuously puts on time after time after time and continuously shuts up his doubters. For Team AEW, I had to include the one that got away from the WWE. Probably WWE's biggest fumble ever since AEW has ever been conceived. In my opinion, that is the former Swerve Scott, currently Swerve Strickland in AEW. Swerve Strickland, because he has just been absolutely putting on clinics in AEW. He has been cooking with some of the best matches of the night, time after time after time. And he really just feels like he has been unleashed, like he doesn't have any sort of parameters or any barriers preventing him from doing the things that he's amazing at. I felt like he was great in WWE, but now comparing him to the work that he's been doing in AEW, you can tell that he had kitty shoes on in WWE. They weren't letting him do his whole thing, because everything that he's doing in AEW makes me just clamor and want more Swerve Strickland. And I think he adds that dastardly, evil, willing to do anything type of edge to Team AEW, an edge that they genuinely are going to need if they're going to beat that star-studded team WWE. You know, I mentioned that Roman Reigns has hacks, but I think that Orange Cassidy might have more hacks in terms of pulling wins out of his ass than anyone on this list. During that title reign for the International Championship, I saw this man get away with the most ridiculous victories I've ever seen in my life, week after week after week after week. He is also a stamina machine. He doesn't stop. He's always going full intensity, even though, you know, his whole shtick is that he doesn't go fall out. But when he does, oh my goodness, he doesn't stop. He's a perfect addition to Team AEW in terms of their chemistry, in my opinion. Plus, again, similar to MJF, like, I feel like this is a guy who, yeah, he had some popularity pre-AEW, but his work in AEW has really just catapulted him to being one of the most recognizable professional wrestlers on the planet today, especially with the hardcore fans. And honestly, I would just die laughing at the notion of him doing his soft little kicks with his hands in his pockets at Gunther, only for Gunther to chop him into another dimension. All right, so who would win in the men's Survivor Series match? Team AEW or Team WWE? I gotta be honest with you. I think Team WWE is also sweeping this one. I just don't see how a team full of those guys that I mentioned, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Braun Breaker, and Gunther, I don't know how they could possibly lose. Anyways, that's my list. Go check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. I'd really appreciate it. All right, take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.